man.
All right.
I'll do what
And
I
that
do.
is not discrimination. That's the law. You got to go. All right. Now, the enforcement is happening, and just as it should, because it's been a long time coming. Now, on November 24th, 2024, ICE deported, or they reported that 5,120 Jamaican nationals have been issued their final orders. Okay, and that's the final order means, hey, you got to go. So they're going to be picking these people up and sending them home. And this isn't hypothetical. It's already happening. On January 30th, there was a flight from the United States that sent 50 Jamaicans home back to Kingston. Okay, and this is not an isolated incident. In fact, they do it on a regular basis, and I expect this to get ramped up. Now, here's the other thing. Okay, we're looking at something different, something called TPS, which is temporary protected status. There were 309,000 Haitians were given temporary protected status under Joe Biden back in November, and Donald Trump revoked all that. Okay, so that means there's a total of about 500,000 Haitians that are about to be sent home. 500,000. That is going to create a humanitarian crisis in Haiti. Okay, and we've seen what happens in Haiti. There's already problems. And the question you need to be asking yourself is, Black Americans who see this and we know why are we not in an uproar? Why are we not in an uproar? But see, here's another thing. There's also Nigerians, Ethiopians, Ghanaians, people from the Sudan. What's that guy from Sudan that y'all like to watch? What's his name? Fresh and Fitness or something like that? I know you want to keep that guy over here, right? I know you want that guy to stay, him and his people, right? So why are you Black Americans not in an uproar that Mr. Fresh and Fit's people are going to be deported like that? They're Black, right? Aren't they? Right? Because see, this is not just affecting criminals. No, they're anybody who overstayed their visa. Everybody can go. Nobody is above the law. All right, whether you're from Liberia, it's 1,500 you all. Sierra Leone, it's 1,500 you. It's 1,000 people from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Why are we not in an uproar that our immigrant brothers and sisters from the motherland in the Caribbean are not being sent back? Well, let me just suggest that many of these same Black immigrant groups, they have not extended the support to Black Americans in our fight for justice, civil rights, and economic opportunities, to say it in a more eloquent way. And over the years, we've seen many of these immigrants come to our country and literally distance themselves from the Black American experience and the struggles that we have had to deal with. They position themselves as a distinct group and often looking down on our community. Now, when these deportations are increasing, some of these same folk, low key, expect Black Americans to rally behind them. Same as the Latinos. They expect Black Americans to come save them. And I'm saying ethnic Black Americans are foundational Black Americans so we can draw a clear distinction. But see, my thing is, where was that energy when we needed support? Where was our expedited visa papers to go to Ghana to get away from the institutional racism that we had? What about the Nigerian government? Where's our reparations from what you all did to us 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago, selling us to European slavers? Where were the alliances when we were fighting for fair treatment under the law? Well, if you can't answer that question, let me help you understand something. That's why the foundational Black American community is sitting this one out. See, the days of jumping into every fight, every political movement is over. Everybody needs to now take responsibility for their own circumstances. If deportation numbers are high, that means the laws are being enforced as they should be. And if certain groups didn't take the necessary steps to secure their legal status, that's on them. Because see, the era of free passes is over. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Now, many people don't believe that Black Americans, the descendants of U.S. slaves, also known as foundational Black Americans, ethnic Black Americans, played a pivotal role in making the Immigration Act of 1965 possible. And this is the very same civil rights movement that dismantled Jim Crow and secured voting rights and that helped fight against desegregation. And it also paved the way for non-European immigrants. That means Africans, Caribbeans, Asians, Latinos to enter into the United States in any significant numbers. But little did our ancestors know, right, that the very people who would benefit from this historic policy would later come to America and practice intra-racial exclusion and dismissing and often looking down upon the very Black Americans who fought to open the doors in the first place. See, it is the civil rights struggle that foundational Black Americans put forth in the Immigration Act of 1965 that went along with the other acts, okay, that did away with the immigration policy, which was in itself heavily anti-Black, anti-Asian, and anti-brown. Now, the shout out to my man Holgram EMC. Now, the National Origins Act of 1924. This was a federal law that put a strict quota that overwhelmingly favored white immigrants from Northern and Western Europe. They didn't even want Southern Europeans. They didn't even want Eastern Europeans. Okay? It outright banned people from Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean and Eastern Europe from coming to this country. And the law was rooted in eugenics and white supremacy, and it ensures that America remained a predominantly white Anglo-Saxon country. Now, it was in the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s that the civil rights movement at that time was in full force, spearheaded by foundational Black Americans. And we spent generations fighting for justice. And so because of that, they lifted it. You had people like Dr. Martin Luther King, who advocated for racial equality and justice, Brother Malcolm X, who spoke against the hypocrisy of the American democracy, and he highlighted the U.S., how it was promoting freedom abroad while practicing segregation, exclusion at home. Then you had the Honorable Thurgood Marshall. He fought for equal protection under the law, which indirectly influenced immigration and reform. And then you had people like John Lewis. He marched, him and so many others that marched and protested, put their life on the line to ensure that the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act were passed, and those laws laid the foundation for what we later call immigration reform. Okay. And what happened when that act was passed, it abolished the racist quota system that allowed for a surge of African Caribbean. Look, they didn't like us over here. The last thing they wanted to do is let some more Black people from Africa and the Caribbean come over here. But we fought for that. Okay. It was us that made it easier for immigrants to bring their relatives. And it also allowed people who had low skill workers from what we call the global South, shout out to TIQS, to migrate to this country. Then that's why you can become a doctor and an engineer and a professional here. We literally restructured America's racial demographics, and we made immigration from Africa and the Caribbean a reality on a large scale. Again, little did we know that the people we opened the doors for would look down on us. Little did we know that. So instead of integrating fully into the Black American struggle, they practice intraracial exclusion and anti-Black American racism. They distance themselves from Black Americans. They call us lazy. Somebody type lazy in the chat room. Uneducated. They call us criminal, right? Violent. They refuse to acknowledge our contributions. They say we beg all the time, even though apparently they be begging a lot more than us, right? They beg the whole government. Your whole government is begging, Okay, you benefited from affirmative action. You not only do you attend PWIs, but you attend the HBCUs, and you got the nerve to practice anti-black, anti-FBA discrimination. You form your own enclaves, and you look down on Black Americans who fought for the very rights which you benefit from. And as an African, right, as an African American, you know, I look at the fact that you all benefited from this, and we're still facing systematic racism, mass incarceration, and economic disenfranchisement. Here's the thing you got to understand. By 1980s and 1990s, America had turned its back on foundational Black Americans, and it shifted its focus to the new model Black immigrants.
You would tune in to the one, if not the best, on these YouTube streets. We call him DennisSpurling. You sit back and hate watch, clocking everything he do and say, but you yelling DennisSpurling. Show some love, ain't enough going round for a black man putting it down. We talking DennisSpurling. Taking over 2025, ain't no lies. Pull up, tell all of your guys we watching DennisSpurling. You tune in to the one, if not the best, on these YouTube streets. We call him DennisSpurling. You sit back and hate watch, clocking everything he do and say, but you yelling DennisSpurling. Show some love, ain't enough going round for a black man putting it down. We talking DennisSpurling. Taking over 2025, ain't no lies. Pull up, tell all of your guys we watching DennisSpurling.
This is Uncle D, and as I always said this time, I'm out.
Almost to 10,000 followers. I want to say thank you to you guys. You know, God has something in store for me, and I'm going to continue to say yes.
Smooth operator. Come on, everybody. Smooth operator. Smooth operator. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.